SB 318, prosecutorial misconduct amendments by Senator Weiler. So Senator Weiler, whenever you're set there, time is yours.
Thank you. Is my microphone on?
It is.
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, it's not working great.
So I want to first of all tell the committee this bill is going to have a lot of opposition. Okay. And I was in discussions with some prosecutors about this bill before I left town, and I just got back late last night. So I've let everybody know I'm going to present the original bill, but there will probably be a substitute if it passes out today. New York and Georgia have both seen fit to introduce a Prosecutorial Conduct Commission. Many of you are familiar with Fannie Willis in Georgia, who was prosecuting the former president at the time, and then hired her boyfriend to come and get paid a lot of money. And a lot of people thought that was maybe inappropriate. And I don't know as much about New York's Prosecutorial Conduct Commission, but it's interesting to me that a red state and a blue state have both seen the need to have some type of overview where complaints against prosecutors could be aired out. And in Utah, for quite some time now, we've had a Judicial Conduct Commission. And let me be clear, judges are members of the Utah Bar. Prosecutors are members of the Utah Bar. And yet, so you can file a bar complaint against a judge just like you could against any attorney or against a prosecutor or against a defense attorney. But notwithstanding that, we've seen the need that for judges who operate differently than an average attorney does, that we have a special commission just to oversee and review those. And so what this bill has done, at least this iteration of it, is basically we cut and pasted the Judicial Conduct Commission statute, and then we revised it for prosecutors. Now, why am I doing this? Well, first of all, and I had an argument last week in the Senate lounge with a prosecutor and I said, you exercise quasi-judicial functions. And the one prosecutor said, no, we don't. And he was wrong. And let me tell you why. First of all, prosecutors decide whether to file charges, what charges to bring, and whether to offer plea deals. These decisions must be guided, or should be guided, by fairness, evidence, and justice rather than personal or political motives. That is one of over 10 quasi-judicial functions that prosecutors exercise. Second of all, prosecutors have an obligation to respect the defendant's constitutional rights, ensuring that evidence is lawfully obtained and that trials are fair. Thirdly, prosecutors, unlike defense attorneys who advocate solely for their client, prosecutors must balance the interests of the public, the victims, and the accused, making impartial decisions that serve justice. Fourth, prosecutors are required to disclose evidence that may exonerate a defendant, even if it weakens their case. This obligation is supposed to prevent wrongful convictions, and we often talk about these as Brady obligations or Giglio obligations. Number 5, in some instances, prosecutors recommend sentences to the court, weighing factors like the severity of the crime, the defendant's background, and the societal interests. 6, before bringing a case to court, prosecutors assess whether there's sufficient evidence to support a conviction, thereby supposedly avoiding frivolous or unjust prosecutions. Unfortunately, we have frivolous and unjust prosecutions in this state. And you'll hear about some of that in the public comment. 7th, prosecutors maintain the integrity of the legal system by ensuring cases are ethically prosecuted, preventing abuse of power, and sometimes even intervening to correct wrongful convictions. 8, prosecutors present evidence to grand juries, not so much in Utah, but they must do so in a way that is fair and not misleading, ensuring that only legally sound cases moving forward. 9th, prosecutors must avoid coercion, ensuring fair treatment of witnesses, and refrain from improper influence or prejudicial public statements. And lastly, 10, if a conflict of interest arises, prosecutors must step aside to preserve impartiality in the justice system. One of my disappointments in running this bill is almost every prosecutor I've talked to have said, well, why don't you have a defense counsel conduct commission? We don't like how defense counsel works. That tells me there's a problem, because if they don't understand that they are different than defense counsel, we have a problem in the state. For the 10 reasons I just identified, prosecutors are different. They should be held to a different standard. And if they are engaging in conduct, if they are prosecuting just for the sake of getting a conviction and not seeking to do justice, we have a problem. And so that is the reason that I'm asking that we have a state commission that can review complaints against prosecutors. I do want to tweak the language so that we're not interfering with cases. We're not just creating a situation where any defense counsel can file a complaint right before trial and have the trial postponed and have the state have the case start right over. I don't want that. I don't want a case where in every case a complaint's made against a prosecutor. So in the current Judicial Conduct Commission, and I've talked to the executive director. I reached out to him last week, but I talked to him a prior session or two ago, and at that time he told me 90% or more of the complaints they get against judges are immediately dismissed. And so they'll get a complaint from a defendant that says, the judge ruled against me, therefore he must be unethical. That complaint is not investigated. Now, if we have a complaint that says, I saw the judge, at dinner with the prosecutor the night before, or the opposing counsel the night before the trial, that complaint would be investigated. I'm just giving you the differences. And so a lot of the opposition I've received to this is, well, we're hated as prosecutors because we're prosecuting people. Well, judges are sentencing people, and judges rule against people in divorce cases and breach of contract cases and everything else. And so, the idea that we can't hold prosecutors accountable because they're prosecuting people is just a non-starter for me. And so the bill, like I said, it copies the Judicial Conduct Commission statute, and then a point of much discussion has been who would serve on the commission. So I'll end my presentation with this, Mr. Chair. So we do have. Let me just direct you to the line numbers. So on the bill, this really starts on page 16, line 515. We define the commission, we define complaint, we define investigation and prosecuting attorney and prosecution team member, and we define prosecutorial misconduct. And let me go through that. It means conduct committed in the course of prosecution of a felony or a Class A misdemeanor that potentially violates a statute, a court rule, or provision of the Utah Constitution, or an ordinance or policy of a county or municipality, or the legal rights of an individual. And then what we've proposed in this draft is 11-member commission with 2 members of the House, 2 members of the Senate. Those are both appointed by the respective leaders of their bodies. 2 members who are active or retired defense attorneys. 2 individuals who are not members of the Utah State Bar, appointed by the governor. And the governor does the 2 members who are active or retired defense attorneys. An active or retired prosecuting attorney who's in good standing. A retired judge appointed by the governor. All of these are appointed by the governor. And then an assistant attorney general appointed by the attorney general. So you'd have 2 prosecutors, and a defense attorney, and a retired judge, and then 4 legislators. So that's the opening salvo on that. They would serve for 4-year terms. Nobody could serve more than 8-year terms. So with that, I will conclude my presentation.
That concludes your presentation. We'll go back to the committee for clarifying questions. I have one. Well, we'll go to Senator Brammer first. Go ahead, Senator Brammer.
Yeah, I serve on the Judicial Conduct Commission, and so I see how this is patterned after it. I don't have, and I generally like the bill. I do get, because I'm an attorney legislator, I do get quite a bit of people approaching me on, when they feel like they've been treated unfairly by our judicial system, things like that. The one critique that I would have if you're going to do a sub, the Judicial Conduct Commission is an incredible amount of legislative workload, and I have some concerns about having 4 legislators on here, and I would probably just prefer to not have legislators on here unless they were, unless it was optional. or maybe appointments that are not legislators but are, other appointments that the House or the Senate could do. I just, there's only so many of us lawyer legislators.
Yeah.
And we end up being on all of these, and I don't want to necessarily be on so many committees. So.
That feedback is well taken, and I have similar concerns.
Okay, thanks.
My only question would be, I'm not sure if it would actually kind of overlay, but we have a current judicial conduct commission. Could the duties, we could do all this and just push the review over to the judicial commission for review as well. Potentially, you might have to restructure a little bit,
Yeah.
but that might be easier than.
That's exactly why I was calling the executive director last week, but unfortunately, we traded phone messages a couple of times, so I'm going to reach out to him again today.
I think that would make some sense if it could structurally be done. Certainly would save a lot of time and effort on asking additional.
So let me tell you how remarkable this is that the two of you have both said things that I'm thinking the same thing. So
Okay.
we're on the same page.
Okay, perfect. We'll go to public comments. Anybody here from the public would like to speak to this? Come on up quickly as you can. Oh, let's see. How many? Raise your hands again. How many for? How many against? We have another bill. We have another bill that is we need to give time to. I suspect so. If we go 2 and 2, and just quickly as you can. So 2 for, and then 2 against. So you choose, and I don't. However you want to do that. 2 for, 2 against. Come on up in whatever order you like. Time is yours. Go ahead. State your name, who you represent.
My name's Ken Bullock. I represent myself. I'm nobody in terms of organizations. It's just me. I asked, and I've been involved in this particular series of legislations for a number of years now.
I would go as quick as you can, sir.
I will, sir. I'm not going to give you a Moby Dick version of this,
all right,
but
go
there
ahead.
are some important points to this of why this legislation was initiated. I was charged with 7 second-degree felonies. I ended up, after 7 years and 3 months, of having my case dismissed with a no contest plea in abeyance to a single misdemeanor. After a year of probation, it was dismissed. 7 years and 3 months, overcharging. Where do I go to talk to someone about this? I attempted to talk to the Utah League of Cities and Towns, which initiated these charges. They dismissed me. I went to the county council and county mayor in their public hearings on 3 separate occasions. When you use the word conspire, and I can prove that these charges against me were conspired, and you sit in front of the county council and mayor and you use that type of terminology, nothing comes of it. I attempted to meet with the former Attorney General Sean Reyes on 3 separate occasions and was dismissed. I met with, at the prodding of, and a well-received prodding from Senator Weiler, to meet with the district attorney, Sim Gill, outline my concerns about things that occurred to me during my case. That didn't really go anywhere. I had the good fortune of meeting with Brett Robinson, who is now the new representative for Salt Lake County. I find him to be,
It's all right. That's your time. If you could try and wrap up.
I am getting close to that, sir.
Okay, as quick as you can.
I find him to be a forthright individual that is willing to listen. But when you go time after time to try and get people to hear you and they ignore you, you go to your defense counsel and they state, well, we can't do anything because we're afraid of our relationships with prosecutors and judges. So that portion is denied me. Where do you go? The only reason we have prosecutors here opposing this bill is because there's a bill. No place would deal with it until you got a bill.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you, sir.
conclude my remarks, but there's plenty to this story about misconduct, violating my constitutional rights, et cetera. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time. Go ahead. State your name, who you represent. Time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is on.
It is. It's not working very, so you got to get right up. But you can
I'll-
pull the
I'll-
whole thing.
I'll lean into it a
Yeah,
little
you
more.
can pull the whole thing.
My name is Eric Clark. I'm the Washington County Attorney. I'm also the chair-elect of SWAP, the Statewide Association of Prosecutors, and the past chair of the Utah County and District Attorney Association.
Excuse me, sir. I'm just asking for the guy next to you. If you could vacate the chair, we have others that would come up. I'd appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So as prosecutors,
The next individual that wants to speak, come on up, sit in the chair.
we're fine with oversight. So some of us are directly elected. We deal regularly with bar complaints against our prosecutors. We deal regularly with people that have been convicted of crimes complaining to the Attorney General's office and their public corruptions folks. The state legislature in December opened a legislative audit into county and district attorneys' offices for the first time. And for the next 16 to 24 months, that audit will be happening by your guys' auditors, looking at how we handle things. We just, Jeff from SWAP just sat up here and supported Representative Wilcox's bill that will have us directly reporting to the legislature. Every year during interim, we will now be coming and reporting directly to you guys. So we're fine with oversight. What we oppose is when that oversight makes us less efficient, doesn't accomplish anything, and just grows government and creates bureaucracy. This proposed bill would create a committee or a commission that people could come and complain to, and then the commission could hear stuff, but then it would just recommend stuff back to the Attorney General's office or the bar. And so then we're spending taxpayer resources dollars on something that's just going to the entities that already exist, that already have the tools to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one quick question. Hold tight.
I'll save it for comments after.
Okay. Go ahead, sir. Time is yours.
Thank
State
you.
your name,
Troy
who
Ro-
you represent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Troy Rawlings, Davis County Attorney's Office. While Mr. Weiler, I know him well, is a fine man, I don't think he's proposed a fine bill with SB 318. My opposition to SB 318 does not mean support for prosecutorial misconduct. I think if any of you check the record, you'll find that in Davis County, we've dealt with it aggressively, and I've been sued over terminating a prosecutor for misconduct. I think I know what I speak about on this issue, and I agree with everything Senator Weiler said about the role of a prosecutor. He's spot on. That is our role. We need to take it seriously. The decisions we make impact lives. I think some of the problems with this bill in the limited time I have, though, it creates basically, it's almost like it's a publicity, I don't want to say stunt, because I know Todd Weiler knows that that's not his intent, but it's with no teeth other than creating, I think, as Eric said, a level of bureaucracy we now have to deal with. When you look at the makeup and the proposal here, this committee can receive complaints from anybody and everybody at any point in time, and I do appreciate he may amend it till after a case is over. But we're already doing it. There's already levels to this happening. When complaints come to my office, we deal with it. I enlist the assistance of the Attorney General's office to help us. The state bar is already in place. But this committee, ultimately, when you read what the bill does, it creates a committee to hear evidence against prosecutors. The committee has no power to do anything. They can't constitutionally. The state bar regulates the practice of law. So it's a committee. Then what do? They release a report publicly. So in essence, we'll have prosecutors defending themselves while they should be focusing on public safety and prosecuting cases that are now defending the complaints that we're going to be getting, because there's going to be a public report that's issued. And then what happens? Then if it goes to the state bar, we have to defend it before the state bar. There could be litigation. And thank you, I'll wrap up. Last point really quickly. Most prosecutor allegations of misconduct are nuanced, like Brady violations. Brady violations are even argued in court. District court judges can agree with appellate courts on whether there was a Brady violation or not. If defendants feel that...
If you could wrap up.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
We got one more in support. I'm sorry to cut you guys short. I don't mean to. I know attorneys love to talk, so I get it. Come on up.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Mike
Time-
Jarman.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm from
you're on
Holiday,
our track.
Utah. I'll be less than 2 minutes.
You have to be less than a minute and a half, but go ahead.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo that anything that can provide at least a benchmark for some sort of accountability is going to be a good thing. Last year, I had the experience of having, and I won't name any names here, but I had a local detective forged 11 charges against me. I was taken from the Matheson courthouse and held in jail for 2 months. And through that process, every court hearing I went to, the prosecutors were coming up with another false charge, another lie, yet no one would give that to me on paper, and I never got these reports or anything. and then was forced to make a deal just to get out of jail. So anything that helps prosecutors understand that there is eyes starting to appear on these walls and ears and watching and hearing what is happening is going to be a good thing. If anyone would like to know more, I do carry these with me. I've been here to pass them out for a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being succinct. Okay, we're going to come back to the committee for any further clarifying questions and or comments or actions. Oh, my computer.
Just for efficiency, I'll go ahead and make a motion to favorably recommend the bill with the understanding that I will plan to sub it on second reading, because I do agree that it needs some work, but anyways, I can sum when you're ready.
Okay, that motion is ordered, but my computer just went blank. So we are on this one. We didn't move a sub, right? No, okay. So the motion is to favorably recommend SB 318 prosecutorial misconduct amendments. Do you want to speak to that further, or should we come on the motion itself? You'll get a chance to sum on the bill.
Yeah, I'll
as well.
sum later.
Okay. Senator Brammer, to the motion.
Yeah, I think, you know, there are processes to report these to the bar, but, you know, I think most attorneys, they get their bar journal and they flip to the last page and look at the gossip section. And rarely do I see anything related to prosecutors. Now, that may mean that prosecutors are awesome, but it also means that for the most part, they're tied to trust accounts, if you go look at it. and so, you know, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit for bar misconduct. However, in our case law, there's all kinds of case law related to prosecutorial misconduct, but that rarely has any impact on an office or an attorney. So, you know, that can include failing to disclose exculpatory evidence, introducing false evidence, you know, using improper arguments, discriminating in jury selection, evidence tampering, pressuring a person to commit a crime, introducing a plea bargain through threats, presenting false witness testimony. We've got all kinds of case law where that has happened, but we haven't seen much in terms of offices, you know, there being any consequence for the office. I am concerned about the public reporting side of it. You know, the JCC is really quite confidential, the Judicial Conduct Commission, so that we're not undermining the process or undermining the judges at every turn when they do something wrong. I would like to see this be a little more confidential in terms, at least until you get to the final stage of a finding, and you know, just having the charges and all of that. This needs to be fairly tamped down. As far as concerns about growing the size of government, I know that that's, you know, a common refrain, especially in conservative circles. However, you know, we grow the size of government to check governmental power all the time. That's the entire point of a legislature. And so to say that a check on the misuse of government force is not a conservative position, to me, is somewhat antithetical to my general beliefs. I do want to see improvements. I don't think this bill is totally fleshed out. I want to see some improvements, and I think that the prosecutors that have talked today have brought up some good points that, you know, need to be well considered. But I see a few cases, and they come to me, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little concerning, and you know, having a check on that, or at least a look into that, is a very worthwhile endeavor and a good use of public funds. And so it's a powerful position, and it destroys lives, but it also protects all of us. And, you know, and sometimes those lives deserve to be destroyed because they did horrible things. I get that. And so, you know, I'm almost always more prosecutorially friendly, but I am always also terrified of the power that wields, and having a check on that, I think, is worthwhile. And so I'll be supporting the bill, and with the understanding that there's some changes coming, and I'll be looking at those and hope to support those changes, and that it brings some people on board that aren't there currently. Thank you.
So I'm just going to say, overall, I think in legislative action that I watched over the past 6 years, we are fairly prosecutorial friendly, and maybe not so defense friendly. I would say that's generally a fair statement. And also, but with that being said, clearly there's individuals that here that would like to have spoken, public comment, and we just had to cut it short. And Senator Weiler, I watched you go through moving a bill forward, and I know you're very good at working with those that want to contribute and be a part. And I would just encourage you, based on what we just heard and what we've seen, and my just restraint on time had to cut short. Listen to them closely. They obviously have much to contribute.
And if I could sum, Mr. Chair, if I can't get a bill that I feel good about, I'll just hold it. I don't want to pass a bill that is a bad bill. But just in summation, I want to say two things. I have the greatest respect for Troy Rawlings, and if every prosecutorial agency was cleaning house like he had, I probably wouldn't be running the bill. But the problem I have right now is that even if someone was fired in Davis County for prosecutorial misconduct, they could go to Salt Lake County or Utah County and get a job tomorrow. And there's nothing to stop them. And so even though the commission may not have any teeth, it's going to have that effect. Number two, and this is my final point, I hope that the existence of a commission will have a chilling effect on prosecutors who are even considering doing things that are across the line. Now, I believe that the vast majority of our prosecutors are good, doing what's right, and following the Constitution and seeking justice in every case. But if anyone's going to come up here and say there's not a few bad apples, they would be lying, and that's what this commission's for. That's my summation.
Thank you. The motion is to favorably recommend SB 318 prosecutorial misconduct amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I rule that motion passes unanimously.